Zacchaeus was a wee little man. Now, some of you may want to open your Bibles to Luke 19, 1 through 10. It's up to you. But there you can see, am I making it up, or is it really in the Bible, the things I'm talking about? And if some of you just don't want to listen to my sermon, you might end up reading the Bible. And I would consider that a good thing. So Friday night, I was in Manhattan. I was in New York City. I was visiting my daughter. We were walking through the West Village. I felt so special. I didn't feel like a country boy. I felt like a cool person in New York on Friday night, and I encountered Zacchaeus. There were a group of 6 of us walking down a sidewalk, and behind us, I heard a male voice speaking loudly and profanely. I mean, it was bad words. You can imagine, right? It was that letter between G and E. Well, I kind of didn't know what to do. First of all, my back hurts. So I do not feel like being Superman and turning around and saying, hey, watch your language, or any of that tough cowboy stuff that sometimes I try. And also, I'm with my daughter and her friends, and this is supposed to be a nice, tender, sweet family kind of reunion. But all of a sudden, there is intimidating, profane, loud male language behind me, and it adds stress to the situation. I'm not sure what to do. So I decide to just step to the side and let this party pass, so I don't have to deal with them just a step or two behind me. And so I do, and here comes the littlest guy. He could have been a jockey for the Breeders' Cup, which was Saturday. And he wore glasses. He was Mr. Peabody. He was Opie on the old Andy Griffith show. There was nothing intimidating about him, but boy, he talked like he was George Foreman. I encountered Zacchaeus Friday night. Because here's what it says about Zacchaeus in that verse that introduces him. It says he was a chief tax collector. And the Greek word for chief is arch. The word arch is there in the Bible, in the original Greek. Arch, like archbishop, like arch enemy, like arch being the top of something. But then later in that verse, it explains that Zacchaeus was short. And the Greek word for short is micro. So the micro man is working really hard to be Mr. Big. That's the story of Zacchaeus. The micro man working so hard to be Mr. Big. And also, he's a tax collector. Now, you don't know what a tax collector means in their world, but a tax collector was kind of a low-level mafia guy. A tax collector in their world was a person in the village who made a deal with the government and said to the Romans, I will get you more taxes than anyone else. And the person who promised more money to the government got the contract. And then their goal is to squeeze as much money as they could out of the people in the village, pay off the Romans, and then keep whatever's left over. And they had muscle to help them get as much money from people as possible. So you have to imagine this movie in Luke 19 is Danny DeVito as Don Corleone. Okay? That's what we're looking at. Now, I don't want to make too many jokes about Zacchaeus being short or a Napoleon complex, because Height is relative. It turns out I got this really tall son. And then he's got a bunch of friends on the basketball team, and they're really tall too. So I used to think of myself as decent height. But when I'm with them, I feel like Dr. Livingston, and I just wandered into the village of the Dinkas. So it's all relative. But here's the main point. Zacchaeus had a shortcoming. Whether it was real or imagined. And what did he do? He tried to make up for it by overdoing it. The micro man had to be Mr. Big. And that made me think about all the ways all of us try to make up for things that hurt inside by overdoing it. And I thought about cowards who pretend to be bullies. And I thought about people who were insecure about their education who made their resume look better. And I thought about people who kind of thought they grew up poor and then who are really want to show off that they have something now. And I thought about all the kinds of armor we put on to protect us from ancient wounds. That's Zacchaeus. But then the next thing that happens in the story is it says, he heard Jesus was in town and he went out to see him. Zacchaeus wanted something, whether he knew it or not. Zacchaeus, to the rest of the world, was pretending he was this mobbed up wise guy. He could handle the Romans. He could more than handle his fellow Jewish villagers. But for all that, there was a day when Zacchaeus climbed up in a tree because he wanted something. There was something missing. Now, you knuckleheads this morning, I have no idea what got you here. Some of you come because it's just your habit. And you do the same thing every day. And you do the same thing every week. And it kind of keeps things regular. And this is part of your regularity. Some of you come out of duty because you were programmed beautifully as a child to believe the world really doesn't work unless you go to church. You need to go to church to kind of make things right. Some of you came to services this morning because someone said, you got to go to church today. But here's the trick. I don't care what got you here. You're like Zacchaeus. I know better. Deep down, you're curious, whether you know it or admit it or not. Deep down, there is a piece missing to the jigsaw puzzle set up in the card table of your heart. You may have food, and you may have shelter, and you may have medical insurance, and you may have your favorite TV shows already programmed to record this week. And there's still something else you are missing. And even if the Red Sox win the World Series, that felt great, there's still something missing you're curious about. And so, you guys better check your safety belts because Jesus can see you up in that tree. So now let's talk about what happens when Jesus comes to town. First of all, you've got to think back to their days and imagine the spectacle of Jesus. This is an ancient village like your ancestors lived in somewhere. It could have been Italy. It could have been Africa. It could have been Asia. But somewhere, your ancestors lived in an ancient village just like this one in the story. And you know what? In that ancient village, there was nothing on TV. There was no TV. There was sunrise, sunset, and there was tradition. Tradition, tradition, tradition. Sunrise, sunset, and tradition. That's all there was. And you know what? There could be days, weeks, months, years, and nothing new happened. We're talking the same old for centuries. And now, the word on the street is that there's this prophet, there's this healer, there's this mystic, there's this guru who's coming to town. You're out of your house and you're climbing trees because you are starved for something that's different. And even the wannabe tough guy, Zacchaeus, is drawn to this. Now, here's the next move in this story. Jesus says to him, Zacchaeus, come down. Jesus takes the initiative. Here's the problem. After all these years of being a minister and being a person and being a human being and trying and failing and all this stuff, I discovered I actually really do believe. I don't have to con you or hypnotize you or manipulate you. Jesus is coming to you. Jesus is somewhere in the world saying, come down. I don't know how it happens. It may not happen in this church service. That doesn't matter. Somewhere in this world, Jesus is saying to you, come down. I don't have to manufacture that. And once Jesus sees you, here's the trick. Jesus is going to ask something of you. Jesus says to Zacchaeus, I'm coming to your house. Jesus invites himself. Guess who's coming to dinner? The living Christ is coming. And then this is also beautiful with Zacchaeus. He doesn't have to recite a church covenant. He doesn't have to go through a ritual. He doesn't have to get this or that. What does Zacchaeus have to do? He just has to say yes. It's that simple. But then it's time in the story for Grumblers Anonymous. Just like so many other stories we've been reading the last few weeks, we've been thinking about the prodigal son story. One son gets all tied up and tangled up and twisted and far away from home, but he finally comes home. But then there's the elder brother, grumbling, upset, self-righteous. In every one of these Jesus stories, it seems like there's always one of these mumblers and grumblers. And the funny thing is, that's more likely who we are. Because maybe we didn't go to the far country and have a spree of riotous living, but we can be judgmental. And we can look down on other people. And we can imagine that the fact that we accepted Christ 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago is meaningful, when the truth is Jesus is calling us every day in that tree, come down. And so the question is, have you accepted Christ today? But who cares about grumblers? Let's move on. So I said earlier that Zacchaeus, the way I'm reading this story, he became the chief tax collector because he was making up for something. He felt small, and so he wanted to be Mr. Big. At the end of the story, he makes up for a lot of things. He makes restitution. He makes good on all the ways he hurt people. There's so many beautiful, I could preach, I got to get out of here. We got communion. We got stuff to do. My back is a little bit achy. I know, but, there's so many sermons here. Don't you get it? Here's one I'm not going to preach. It says Jesus is coming to your house. Now, we're here in church right now. And we dress up pretty good. I've been noticing you guys are really good. If we stand up, you stand up. If we sit down, you sit down. But the real truth is Jesus wants to come to your house and wants to come to your work and wants to come to your family and wants to come to your life. So go ahead. Be a good pretend go to church person. But just know this. Jesus wants to come to your house. That's where the spiritual life is. In your life. Not just here. But here's finally what I want to say. You all weren't, most of you weren't here last week, but some of you were. And some of you remember every word of my sermon. That was a joke. Now, here's what I said last week. I said last week, I don't want you to do anything. I don't want you to be a better this or a better that. I don't want you to work harder for Jesus or do more for the poor or do anything. I just want you for 5 seconds in life to be, to breathe, to just realize that your life is a gift. And you can make choices. And you just don't have to do what the ads on television tell you to do. And you could actually be alive before you're dead. And you could give your life in love instead of in closing in. That's all I wanted from you last week. This week's different. Because at the end of the Zacchaeus story, it says all the people he defrauded, he paid back. I don't remember. Who's got their Bible open? Fourfold. And there's something, what else did he do? Who's got it open? Half of his goods he gave to the poor. So this week I can't say don't do anything, because in this text, the point of meeting Jesus means it changes something. So here's where I want us to be this morning. I'm not going to tell you what it is you need to do, because I don't know. I'm kind of smart. My children think I'm smart. Theo thinks I'm smart. No? Okay. But I'm not a mind reader. I'm not a soul reader. I'm not a heart reader. But I'm telling you, there's something you need to do. It may be something you need to do for someone else. It may be something you need to do for yourself. It may have something to do with your health. It may have something to do with your physical health, with your mental health, with your soul health. There's something Jesus is telling you to do. And it's different for each one of you. It's not cookie cutter. It is, you need to do some interior redecorating. And you need to move the furniture around inside your heart to make space for something new. It might be easy. It might be really hard. But the end of this sermon is to tell you, Jesus sees you in that tree. Jesus says, come down, and now Jesus is asking something of you. And so the final bit of this, I don't know what it is, because only you know. But with God's grace, I pray that you will do it.